Scott Porter here. I did want to give you just a small, friendly piece of advice. Don't go out there. Just don't do it. Don't go out there. Not a good idea.
They've conquered the big screen. Now, get ready for the spin-off sure to send chills down your spine. It's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin in Don't Go Out There, the series.
Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We really appreciate y'all listening. We hope y'all have been enjoying these series reviews. I know we have. It's been a lot of fun. Just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network, so there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We are continuing on with episodes 5 and 6 of Dahmer. I'll just kick us off with my general thoughts. I thought it was 2 more very good episodes, especially episode 6. But I do have some thoughts on episode 6 I'm excited to touch on just from, me. All 3 of us were talking off screen about it, off the air about it. It's a unique episode with the way they approached it and how they dive into more of the victim than Dahmer. And it's an interesting take on the episode. I'm excited to talk about it, but I thought both episodes were great. And I thought 6 was the best we've done so far. Brian, you want to go ahead and go next?
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, again, I don't know anything about the case. So what I'm getting from here, I'm kind of taking on the assumption that it's all real life stuff that they're putting in here unless I read about it or you guys tell me. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about it too. But I do agree both were good. I think especially episode 6, like you mentioned, was very disturbing to me. I'm doing the scene by scene for that one. So let me just say this real quick. Episode 6, I think, really shows how demented Dahmer was. And I mean, it's just something about the way that it was shot with that feeling of that silence that I thought it was just an incredible episode. It was my favorite so far of the series, thanks to that sound design, just of its uniqueness. Now, I know we were talking a little bit off camera about, that may be a reason why someone might not like it, is because it is different than the rest and maybe not fit in. But to me, that's what made me like it more. But
I thought these were 2 really good episodes. I have a difference of opinion though. To me, 5 is the best episode we've done so far. Even after watching 6, I liked 5 much better. 6 was really good. It's like it didn't fit to me though, because it focused on the victim more than Jeffrey. And while all of these victims deserve their story to be told, but just doing it 6 episodes in just kind of felt out of place to me for some reason. Like it just didn't hit like it should have. But I will say, I mean, the way, and I say this in my notes, it humanized the victims. Like it's easy to just not get, these are just strangers. We don't know any of the people that have died so far. We briefly see them and then they're dead. So seeing Tony's literally his whole life, it really humanized him and made a stronger connection for the viewer, and made his death hit a lot harder. But like I said, it's just from a television standpoint, it just felt like the episode didn't really fit with the rest of what we've seen so far. And also I deducted some points just because I did happen to see that his mom was very upset with the episode. Apparently, Netflix didn't clear it with any of the victims' families. They just decided, hey, we're telling the story. And it was really hard for the families of the victims to relive these heinous events. And she said that, it didn't go down like that. So just reading, and I'm sure other victims' families have said similar or something along those lines about it being hard to relive, but I just happened to see her remarks. And so it really kind of feels unfair to her and to his family because they didn't do this with any other victims. And so for those reasons, I did rate it a little bit lower than episode 5. But from take a step back and just watching it, it's really good television.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, bravo to her, I guess. But, I know it's 30 years later or whatever, but I don't know if I could watch something on, the serial killer that killed my son. Like, holy crap.
Yeah. And I don't know that she necessarily did watch it. It said, I skimmed through the article, I'm not going to lie, but, she said it was hard to relive. So even if you don't rewatch it, like you just hear that they told the story about Tony and they went in depth for him. Like even just hearing that, I'm sure made it hard for her to relive it, or she started reliving it. It was hard on her. So that's what I meant by that.
You're right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. No chance I could watch that. No chance.
All right. You guys have any other opening thoughts before I get started on episode 5?
Nope.
All right, here we go. Episode 5, Blood on Their Hands. We open in Milwaukee in 1987, where Jeff's grandma is discussing his new job with him, where he's working night shift. He doesn't want to talk about it much. He's mixing chocolate. He cracks open a beer in the break room of his new job and rips a cig while he checks out the newspaper, where he sees an obituary. We hear a detective in 1991 say that he attended the funeral, even though he didn't know the guy, because he thought the guy was beautiful. Then we hear that he planned to dig up his body just to lay with him, but the ground was too hard. He says that if he had been able to do that, maybe he wouldn't have done all the other stuff after. Yeah, all right. He says he wanted to dig him up because he hoped that he could be someone who wanted to see a movie that he wanted to see. It was a control thing. He was tired of being told what to do. The detective changes gears and asks about Stephen Hicks, and Jeff didn't even know which one he was. He says it was an accident, and so was the guy at the hotel. He didn't want to kill that one, but drugged himself on accident and killed him. After that, he drank alone more and started to feel more and more alone. He'd go to bars, take them back to grandma's, drug them, and take them downstairs and strangle them because he didn't want them to suffer. That's a messed up logic. We see him naked, straddling and caressing a dead guy, and then he tells the detectives he killed 3 at his grandma's, 1 black guy, 1 Mexican, and 1 Native American. One of the detectives says Jeff targeted his victims by moving into an under-patrolled black neighborhood. Grandma started to notice the smell, but he learned how to get around that. He tells them about the experiments he did on the bodies and asks if he can get the electric chair. He maintains that he's not insane. Grandma suspected that he was up to something, just not what exactly. She mentioned a smell in the cellar, but he says it's his taxidermy stuff. What'd you guys think?
So right off the bat, I mentioned Jennifer Lynch, the director, last episode. She's back for this one, and for context, she'll also do episodes 7 and 9, and that actually gives her the most amount of episodes this season, and actually ties her with Paris Barkley for the entire anthology. If you didn't know, as of today, I think it's gone 20 episodes with different seasons focusing on different killers, so I may actually continue with this. I had no idea that was even a thing. And man, you want to talk about creepy. Even Dahmer's response to being asked about Steven at the hotel, and his response being, Steven. So, I don't know, that was just so goddamn creepy. And I saw online where some people were actually upset with this group of scenes here. You guys kind of touched on this a little bit, where it shows this montage. And a lot of them said that it fell short of honoring the individuality of the victims, called it a, quote, murder montage. And I mean, look, in this world of everyone being offended by everything, like, I get it. I know that I agree, every victim they should get their flowers, I guess is the way to put that. But I don't know what you really expect the filmmakers to do, though. I mean, they have to make decisions based on a number of different factors. And I don't know. I'm almost just like, if you don't like it, make your own Jeffrey Dahmer miniseries. But, so I kind of get it. I'm just not as mad about it as the other ones. I guess because the next episode focuses so much on a victim, but these don't. So I get it to an extent. This set of scenes, though, is creepy as hell. I think it does a good job of speeding us up a little bit through this progression, which, like I said, a lot of people didn't like. But last thing is, yeah, it was a creepy set of scenes, but I did laugh at the end here when Grandma told Jeff that it stinks in the cellar real bad. He sounded like Napoleon Dynamite, too. He was like, it's what taxidermy stuff. Gosh, eat your food, Tina. God.
Brian, when you just said it stinks real bad, you sounded like, gosh, I want a hot dog real bad.
I was trying to. That's what it reminded me of.
Jennifer Coolidge. Yeah, I know it shouldn't be funny, but how Peters answers Grandma with, I just mixed the chocolate all night. It cracked me, like you mentioned, Brian, like the way he says stuff is hilarious, and it shouldn't be, but it is. As I've mentioned in a previous episode, a big tick for Dahmer was control. He wanted to dictate how sexual encounters went. He didn't want the men to leave. And that's very scary stuff when you can't control these kind of emotions. Mike's brought this up in a previous episode as well, and I don't want to give Dahmer a pass by any means. He's murdering innocent humans, but I don't think he's as inherently evil as other killers like a John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez. He was sick and twisted for sure, but I don't think he liked for people to suffer like how John Wayne Gacy murdered his victims. And if they ever do a monster series on that, I think they'll touch on that, and we'll cover it as well for sure. But that's just my opinion, though, so that's just mine. More good review talk here, but hard to fathom how a detective felt processing this info on experiments on people's flesh and corpses. It's horrifying. Dahmer really did have a lot of luck. His grandma was supportive of him. Most other people would have went downstairs to investigate, and she just went along with it, trusting her grandson. This set of scenes had a lot of dialogue back and forth, but it's been an interesting open. It's really good, but it was a lot of back and forth between Dahmer and the detectives.
Grandma is watching the news when she mentions the smell again. He says it's a dead raccoon on the porch and the smell will go away. Jeff tells the detectives he thinks she was deliberately not seeing it. She finds his devil altar and gets Lionel involved. Lionel goes into the basement and wants Jeff to unlock a door. The room is pretty clean when he does, except some chemicals and sludge near a drain. Jeff says he'll stop doing his experiments, and Lionel says to get rid of all the devil stuff. He stopped the experiments for months, and that's when he got scared about getting caught. He then thought he could get away with it if he was careful, but that's what made not killing very hard. He tells them of his next target, a guy outside a bar with a dead battery. Jeff offered to help him and took him back to Grandma's. Jeff's trying to get the guy to relax, but he's not going for it. He's got to work in the morning. Grandma wakes up, and the guy says he's not sleeping with Jeff, but when he stands up, the drugs in his coffee kick in. Grandma comes downstairs and is shocked that Jeff has black friends. That stood out to me. That was crazy. Jeff tells her he's just had too much to drink and stops her from calling Lionel. She says that she's watching the guy until he wakes up to make sure he's okay, which enrages Jeff. He says if she's so worried, why don't she call an ambulance? Oh, he knows why. Go ahead.
I didn't get that, though. Why does he know why?
I took that as what he told the detectives. She's deliberately not seeing it. That's how I could be completely wrong, but he told the detectives she's deliberately not seeing what he is. I think it's like she didn't call the ambulance because she doesn't want to know the truth. I could be wrong.
Oh, I honestly didn't get it. I thought, I must have missed something. But, yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think the show does a good job here of creating tension in the basement with when Lionel goes through everything. Although, by the way, who fucking puts their finger in a drain and then smells it? Idiot.
Dude,
gosh.
Dude, I thought he was going to taste it, and I was about to hurl.
Oh, nasty. But, watching this, that he doesn't get caught here. So in reality, there's no reason to feel tension, but it's still created, and I still felt it. So bravo to Lynch and the writers there. Something weird, though, with Ron's car. Ron says the battery's dead, but the starter's clearly working. So the battery's charged. Like, I wonder if that was just a mistake by the writers or the directors. I mean, a woman did direct this. So, I mean, yeah, that's probably sexist, but it's a stereotype for a reason, man.
Did I write your notes right there? That was awesome. But so I read something on that. I read something on that. And I wasn't going to bring it up, but I read that Jeff knew that the guy didn't know about cars, and so that was just like his way of luring him to get the jumper cables, quote unquote, at grandma's.
I gotcha.
That could be false, but that's what I read.
I wonder how much of that was all real.
Yeah.
Anyway, on a serious note, though, damn, at the evil and the way Ron tried to say, "Hey, you know I'm not sleeping with you, right?" And Jeff says, "We'll see. Good luck leaving." I was like, God damn, that was very hard to watch. And I do love the way that Lynch shot it, though. You know, flipping between that first person blurry POV with Ron to that third person was great. Honestly, there was a point here when I thought, well, does he kill his grandma? Because, I mean, Peters, I think, does such a great job of just flipping on that rage. It was scary.
Shout out to our lady listeners. We really appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thank y'all for sticking around. But anywho, Grandma just believes anything Jeff says, huh? A dead raccoon under the porch? Come on, Grandma, give me a break. How long? You weren't born yesterday, sis. If I'm Lionel, I'm very disturbed upon seeing what I'm seeing. A giant saw to cut a woodchuck. I'm calling the law on this guy. He's clearly very disturbed and peculiar. Like, you got to just call a spade, and your son's a weirdo. I respect Ronald stood on business, but Jeffrey got him with a "I'm just being polite" line. I was like, damn it, Ronald, don't fall for that shit. Good call by Ronald wanting to leave soon as he said, "We'll see," when it comes to sleeping together. Like you mentioned, Brian, what a haunting line. Great delivery. I was like, it was creepy. Grandma saved his life. Thank goodness she came downstairs to check on the situation. Like, finally, Grandma, you had some awareness. Give her some points in the Madden awareness rating. And I appreciate Grandma not buying Jess malarkey anymore. Like, good for her. This is the last thing I got, Dustin. Evan with another great outburst dealing with his frustrations and anger. Like you mentioned, Brian, he can turn the anger on so impressively. It's very good.
The next morning, the guy wakes up and sees Jeff walking towards him with Grandma watching. The three of them wait at a bus stop, and Jeff puts him on the bus and tells the driver he lives by Marquette, or 27th Street, that's it. The bus reaches the end of the line, and the guy gets off the bus, still drugged out of his mind, and passes out in a field. He wakes up in the hospital where the nurse tells him he's OD'd and is lucky to be alive. He tells the nurse about Jeffrey drugging him, and she says to talk to the police. So he tells the detective about it and tells him what the bathhouses told him about Jeff. But the detective brushes him off and says they'll look into it. And the guy gives the detective Jeff's address. When the detective is talking to Jeff at home and Grandma, he says he doesn't know what the guy's talking about. He says the guy was wasted and he didn't rob him. The detective tells him that Jeff is clean and basically says he's taken the word of a white guy with a criminal record over the word of a black guy without one. The detective says there's nothing he can do without evidence, and that's that. Later that night, Ron sees Jeff getting into a cab with another guy and warns the guy about Jeff, preventing another possible murder, and Jeff leaves alone. At home, Grandma wakes up to see another young guy stumble out of her front door, and the guy refuses to come get the $50 from Jeff. She sees all this from her bedroom window. The guy stumbles into his house and gets scolded by his family for being out so late before they realize something is wrong and call an ambulance. It's the brother of the victim in episode 2. We cut to Jeffrey at work where the cops stop him and arrest him. In court, we see that he's charged with sexual assault in the second degree and sentenced to 1 year in prison. But the judge gives him a break and lets him have a work release for 40 hours a week and won't tell his job what the charge is. Unbelievable. Court is adjourned, and the next set of scenes is the ending.
Yeah, just a warning, Nico. I almost have nothing almost on this, but the first thing I have is just a little goof here in the set of scenes where Ron wakes up from the OD in the hospital. The bed and the heart monitor were appropriate to the late 90s, not the 80s as depicted. So what does this show think it is, Bates Motel? Sheesh.
Jesus.
Anyway, the rest of the set of scenes is just frustrating, like you said, especially with Ron, the police, and whatnot. I mean, I'll say these two words again: systemic failure. Like it's crazy. The judge even being like, "You're not the type of person that belongs in the system." Motherfucker, what? Like what? I don't really I can't even say anything. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you. But imagine being Ronald and finding out down the road who you encountered and you narrowly escaped death's grip. Like that's, I don't know. That's be one of them things where you wake up in a cold sweat thinking about that. This man, Jeff, is real smooth with his lies and him trying to play it off as being a good Samaritan. I stopping by, saying he stopped a drunk driver. Like I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Like it really just pissed me off. Detective was caught with a dumb face when Ronald questions him. You'd rather believe the white man with a criminal record than a black man with no record. I mean, he had him dead to rights. I mean, Ronald was right. I mean, this is just one of the many failures so far from Milwaukee area police. Ronald talked about right place, right time. He saved another guy's life, getting him out of that taxi. Whew. But you should have kicked his ass, honestly. Scary moment as a young man narrowly escaped from Dahmer and stumbles home. Imagine being that parent. And the side eye the stenographer gave the judge, hearing he deserves a second chance, and judge would withhold context, was very deserved. Like, what the hell, man? Like y'all mentioned, like both of you, like this judge, disgusting. The police, disgusting. Like they really failed their community bad.
Absolutely. All right, here's the ending. Lionel is driving Jeff after court, and Lionel says they're going to have one last family dinner before he goes to prison. And when he gets out, he's getting his own place because they're at their wits' end. Grandma paid his bill, and Jeff swears all he was doing was some photography. Lionel wants his box up in Jeff's room that has all of his ribbons and stuff in it, and he follows Jeff to get it. Jeff says he lost the key, and Lionel asks him, "What's in it? Gay porno?" Because he never finds Playboys under his mattress, and now he's been charged with molesting a 13-year-old boy. Jeff denies it, though. Lionel goes to get something to break the box open, so Jeff locks him out and grabs the key. I know Lionel's heartbeat was about 200 beats per minute when he opened it, but it was clean. Jeff had removed the head that was in it. They return to dinner, and afterwards Lionel breaks down and blames himself in the car with Sherry. Says that he should have done more taxidermy with Jeff. Yeah, I don't think that would have helped. When we then see Lionel getting the call from Jeff saying he was discharged from the Army, and then Lionel asking about the mannequin in his bed, and then asking what about the state fair incident, which Jeff downplays and lies about each event. We see Lionel picking Jeff up from work, and Lionel asks why he molested the boy. Jeff denies it again and says he was set up. We cut to the court scene where the boy's father testifies emotionally, and the judge insensitively asks for a translator and then cuts them off and just asks for the written statement for the court record. We then hear a letter that Lionel wrote to the judge where he asked for treatment for Jeff's alcoholism while in custody. We cut to 1 year later, and Lionel is picking Jeff up from prison when he's released. He tells Jeff that he's going back to Grandma's for a week, and then he's got to get his own place. He asks if a psychologist or anyone helped Jeff in prison. Jeff said no. Lionel has Jeff go warm up the car and ducks behind a corner, lamenting Jeff's lack of treatment. Next, we see Jeff outside his new apartment, telling a deaf guy this is where he lives, and the two head inside, and the episode ends.
And again, that's not sound like a broken record, but I'm not an expert on the case. But from what I read, the portrayal of the courtroom proceedings, especially involving the family, having been super criticized for its inaccuracies, like including the judge's inability to understand the victim's father, asking a child to speak instead, and apparently where Lionel discovers that human head in the box, or nearly discovers it, which I'm completely fine with the fictional additions for dramatic effects. I mean, that's movies. They've always been like that. I just wanted to point it out because, I just found out, and it kind of makes me want to know the real details. I don't know if it's out there or else they would have put it in there. So I don't know. We'll see, because I'm going to go look for it. It was hard to watch that scene with Lionel in the car crying about what he could have done and not could have done. Because, we get on him for interrupting Jeff when he was going to tell him what happened at the diner a couple episodes ago. But in reality, it sounds like Lionel just didn't want to accept whatever it is. Like he wanted to put his head in the sand. And again, the responsibility is Jeff's. You're responsible for yourself. Firmly believe that. But I think two things can be true at once, and that Lionel should bear some of that responsibility as well. The show, I think, does a great job here of showing a lot of those times that we didn't see before, where Lionel was involved in conversations or whatever, jumping all through the timeline. I thought it was just another great group of scenes. I thought during this whole thing that he was going to just be at the point where you're like, or Lionel, I can't do anything else. Like, he needs more help than I can give him. But then it shows him writing that letter to the judge about leniency. And I don't know. You can definitely see the disappointment in Lionel's eyes, which is a great acting trait, when he finds out that they didn't fix him in jail like he'd hoped. You just wish he would have done more.
So before you go, Nico, you're absolutely right. Like I've said it throughout this show review Lionel was not a good dad. Like from what we've seen, like he wasn't involved. He didn't want anything. He didn't want to be a dad. He just wanted to have someone they could do taxidermy with. Like that's basically, he wanted a friend, someone that he didn't have to be involved with. But I think the way Richard Jenkins is such a good actor. I mean, in everything. But particularly this episode, I think this is the best he acts in the whole series that I've seen so far, because in the car when he broke down crying, but also when he sent Jeff out to warm up the car, he didn't have to pee. Like that to me felt like a real dad who was heartbroken that, my son just did a year in prison. I asked for him to get help and he didn't. I don't know what else I can do. I've failed up to this point. How can I help him? And so I thought Richard Jenkins was phenomenal.
Yep. I write that down in my notes, Dustin. Unrelated to the show, and I don't know if I've said this or not in the previous episodes, but Molly Ringwald is the worst celebrity I've ever met at a convention. Just a heads up to any listener who wants to meet her in the future, you will be disappointed. She charges $120 for a combo, and she doesn't smile or even talk to you, so save your money.
She might have been having a bad day.
That's on multiple accounts from multiple conventions, so that's just that's the
Maybe
consensus.
she's had a couple bad days.
Well, stop taking our money then, damn it. But anyway, I'm still flabbergasted Jeff got away with his crime so many times. And like I mentioned in the last set of scenes, the justice system failed this community time and time again. And like Dustin and Brian have mentioned, excellent acting from Richard Jenkins as his frustrations grow more and more with Jeffrey lying about the key to the box. It's horrifying knowing he kept a human's head in there the whole time. His breakdown in the car ride home is excellent as well. Great casting for Lionel Dahmer. This judge pisses me off, talking to the father of a victim who is hurt and furious, like he's unworthy to feel how he's feeling. And I wrote this down, Dustin, before you said it, but I agree 100%. This is Richard Jenkins' episode so far to me. The way he portrays a frustrated, broken father is top-notch. He's fantastic. This episode comes to an end with Tony Hughes. I remember my first watch and how devastating episode 6 is with his character. I thought it was another very good episode in my eyes that invokes a lot of emotion in me.
I got just a couple more things since I did the scene by scene, just my final thoughts. I think it's really good stuff. We saw a lot more of the backstory, and it was told in a very informative and captivating way. This was my favorite episode so far. I gave this one a 9.5. Also, Molly Ringwald or Michelle Monaghan, who do you think is going to reject us in the most brutal way when we ask them to be on the show?
Molly. We just won't let Michelle hear anything you've said on the show.
All right, you guys have anything else on 5? I know we kind of talked it to death, but I'm about to do scene by scene for 6, so you guys ready for that?
Ready.
Let's do it. Episode 6, Silenced. We open up in Milwaukee, 1960. We see a birth taking place with just a piano playing until the baby makes its first sounds. We hear the baby's name spoken, Tony. We fast forward some and find out that because of gentamicin being prescribed to the baby, Tony is now deaf. We jump ahead to 1991 and see Tony in the club where he meets Manny, who lets him buy him a beer until he finds out Tony is deaf and bails. Tony and his friends are at the diner now discussing the situation via sign language, where Tony mentions he's just tired of the rejection, and we find out he's an aspiring model. Back at Tony's parents' house, there's a knock at the front door, and his buddy tells him that their friend Rico was murdered. This initiates a spark in him to go pursue his dreams and move to Madison, then hopefully New York to pursue modeling. We then cut to Tony walking around with a resume trying to get a job and being turned down at a record store.
Yeah, piggybacking on my last thoughts from last episode, this is a tough one. The Tony Hughes character is so well acted by Rodney Buford, and it's heartbreaking what Dahmer does to him. I mean, it is for every victim, obviously, but just in the context of watching this show. Starting off with his birth sucks the audience right in and makes us care about his character and story right off rip. Devastating as a parent, I can imagine. I'm not a parent, but to hear your child has a major disability, I couldn't imagine that hurt. Because, it affects your child, but, it affects the way you live, too, forever. So, I'm just saying. 1991, shout out to a great year. A legend was born on February 6, 1991. You're hearing him right now. The legend. I'm just kidding. Very effective silencing the show, giving us Tony's POV of the world. I love the way that they silence the show for so long and do only closed captioning. The pizzeria scene is great, staying silent as well and letting us read the conversations between the three men speaking in sign language. I laughed at Rico saying deaf men are too high maintenance while being a deaf man. I just thought that was hilarious. I like Tony's outlook on life. I got a job, but it's not my life dream and having higher expectations for himself. But I also appreciate his mom telling him to be grateful to have a job and getting a paycheck as well, because times were tough. I'm sure that they didn't have the easiest upbringing in life, so just having a job and getting a check is a blessing. Terrible news finding out Rico was murdered. I don't know the specifics of this, but I'd assume a hate crime probably. I'm inspired somewhat by Tony moving out to live his life, chase a dream after his friend's murder. You only get one life. Enjoy it. Pursue what makes you happy. I love that. And this is the last thing I got. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm really not, but a deaf man applying for a job in a record store is pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
It really was. Like, come on. I'm not sure that we needed the scenes of Tony as a baby, like the childbirth scene. Like, it just felt odd and out of place. Like, if you want to establish that he lost his hearing as a small child, that's fine. But do we need the childbirth scene? It had nothing to do with it. He got sick after the fact. I did appreciate the complete silence when Tony was an adult, though, in the club. Like, it's like you said, Brian, it's very effective. The silence in this episode, and calling the episode Silenced, very effective. I can't lie, though. I laughed when his friend said, "Sign for yourself" instead of "speak for yourself." Like, that got me. There's not supposed to be anything funny in this show, but that was funny. The subtitle said "Sign for yourself." So far, though, it's an interesting approach to this episode. No Jeffrey sighting or mention yet as we focus on a victim's backstory. I'm invested. It's just an interesting approach.
Yep, for sure. We open up with more rejection, trying to get hired until he enters the bottom half clothing store. The manager there hires him on the spot. On campus, presumably the next day, he sees an ad for a photographer seeking models, and we jump into a photo session where he flirts with the photographer and shuts down a hookup attempt as he tells the photographer he's looking for love, not just a hookup. Back at his mother's place, he finds out his sister is having a baby and naming it after him. After dinner, Tony heads back to the club with his friend, where we see Dahmer at the bar, staring. His friend tells him to go talk to Jeff as he's basically, quote, eye-fucking him, and Jeff buys him a whiskey and Coke. The two start dancing, and Jeff takes his shirt off and gets the two another drink. We think it's fucking Bill Cosby o'clock as Jeff pulls out the all-too-familiar drugs, but decides to put them back in his pocket instead. At closing time, Jeff tells him he likes him a lot, and Tony tells him he's drunk and asks him to come home with him. The show takes a beat as Tony writes "Earn Me" on the piece of paper and tells him goodbye. Outside, he meets up with Jeff again, and we see a montage of the two doing normal relationship shit. As Jeff goes with him to get makeup and to a photography session and shopping. The two sit down for a lunch date, and Tony tells Jeff that he seems to be worth the effort of writing everything down.
Man's not having any luck in the job search. I can't imagine how difficult it is finding a job as a deaf person, but I do appreciate his willingness to work. Good for Tony getting a job. Doesn't have soft hands, brother. Tony said he wants love and got told, "Nah, I'll play it" by the photographer. He's like, "Nope, don't want that." I'm sure a lot of folks on their first watch of this show and episode are wondering, and Dustin's kind of mentioned this already, what's going on at this point? We're over 17 minutes into the episode at this point, and there's no Jeffrey Dahmer so far. There's a reason this episode is so highly rated, in my opinion. Tony's character is so well acted, and we already care about him, so I'm fine with it, especially on this second watch. And now we see that sumbitch Dahmer at the bar. I got to give Evan his props. He's dancing his ass off on the dance floor. Man was fucking cutting the rug, I tell you what. This scene with Dahmer showing some hesitancy to drug Tony isn't 100% true. Nothing in the evidence shows Dahmer gave Tony any special treatment. It does make for good television, I'll give it that, but I can't imagine, and I say this a few times, how Tony's family felt about this watching it. Continuing with my last point, this is good television, but I'm willing to bet Tony's family isn't thrilled with these kind of like this montage, like Brian mentioned, of them dating or hanging out type scenes, because I don't know. Even if it's true, I don't know if they want their son or brother, etc., painted like that he loved Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know. This has been a fine set of scenes that I've enjoyed watching, but I can 100% understand if people weren't happy with it or if they didn't care for it.
Yeah, almost 17 and a half minutes in, and we have our first Dahmer sighting. Seeing all this backstory with Tony made me have a knot in my stomach when we do see him. It added a level of humanizing to Tony that we hadn't seen with the other victims. And I put here in the notes, I guess I already said it, but I saw that his mom was appalled, and this was traumatizing to relive. And I get it. It's tough for me to see, and I didn't know him. Like, the guy just wanted love and acceptance, and Jeffrey preyed on him. honestly, this was really hard to take notes on this set of scenes. It's just haunting and disturbing to see Jeff lure Tony into his trap after we've seen this much of Tony's life.
Yeah, for sure. We open up here with Sherry and Lionel showing up at Jeff's new apartment, and Sherry gives him a cake. Does it have 16 candles on it? Hey-oh! Anyway, the place looks cleaned up, a lot nicer than the last time we see the apartment, obviously. He tells him he's pretty much quit drinking and thanks Lionel for sticking with him and that things are turning around for him. He's gotten a promotion and tells him he's happy. Lionel breaks down, genuinely happy that his son is okay. We fast forward and see Tony entering the apartment and once again goes to make him a drink, stopping himself once again from drugging it. The two sit down and play a game Jeff made when he was a kid called Infinity Land. Tony questions the rules some and Jeff starts to lose his temper. The two play a little and Jeff goes in for a kiss and we fast forward to the next morning. Tony has to leave for work and Jeff panics that he's being left. His separation anxiety kicks in. He pulls open the drawer and grabs a hammer. As Tony writes that he won't disappear, he puts Jeff's hand on his heart and gives him a kiss. Jeff once again puts the hammer down, and the next set of scenes is the ending.
Yeah, Dustin, just giving you a heads up, I have only 3 bullet points on this set of scenes, so I won't be long. Jeff being a total weirdo. Who spends their day off watching fish swimming in a circle? Like, get a hobby, man. Actually, Dahmer, you get another hobby. You already have some, but anywho. Said this before, but Lord, I hate strobe light scenes. I know we're at a club, but still they're not pleasant to watch. Like, man, go somewhere else and do this. Again, I have to reiterate, this makes good television, but nothing in the real evidence shows a specialness to the relationship with Tony and Dahmer, except for his own accounts, which are self-serving to Jeffrey, and it's all from his point of view. So it's good to watch, but is it 100% accurate? I don't know. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah. It's also tough seeing Lionel and Sherry come over to Jeff's. Like, you can tell that they desperately want Jeff to turn his life around, and he does a good job of pulling the wool over their eyes. But I did notice something that was weird, though. Like, he says something, and he's like, just like you guys told me to. Brother, you barely know Sherry. What are you talking about? She didn't teach you anything about how to be a decent person. That was weird. The cuts to Jeff and Tony dancing when he tells them he's a good friend, that was very well done. And I like how it gets us to where episode 5 left off. I think it also shows us how messed up Jeff was. It looks like he spent a lot of time with Tony and had a genuine connection, yet he still had to fight the urge to drug him. And the logic. Tony's leaving for a week. He can't handle being away from him for a week, so he wants to kill him so he'll be without him forever. Like, how stupid can a person be? I'm glad he didn't kill him here, but honestly, that relief is obviously very short-lived. I'm ready for the ending.
Short-lived is right, as we jump ahead just a little bit and we open up here the last set of scenes of the police station where Tony's mom is there trying to file a missing persons report. Uh-oh. We hear that Tony hasn't contacted anyone in 2 days, didn't show up for work, and the last place they saw or knew that he was headed was to the movies. We then cut to her and Tony's sister putting up missing flyers and eventually a search party group meeting where we see Jeff has also attended. What did you do, Jeff? We see Jeff's back at his apartment, feverishly drinking, losing his temper, and see his neighbor from next door that we saw in the first episode, I don't remember her name, hearing everything from the vents. Jeff takes out a collection of driver licenses from his victims and makes a drunken call to the family of Errol Lindsay. He tells them they should stop looking for him because he's gone into the vortex. We cut back into the last time we saw Tony and see him re-entering the room looking for his keys. This time, Jeff can't let him leave as he enters the room and shuts the door behind him. We fast forward to seeing the familiar mattress with the stain of blood and Tony's head lying on the bed. Jeff sits down and grabs his hand, interlocking their fingers, and then we cut to Tony's family's house, eating dinner with an empty seat. She remembers their last dinner together, and we learn that Tony worked at a condom factory and shares a nice moment between the two of them where she tells him she stood up to her pastor for him and not to leave Madison tomorrow without seeing her. They tell each other they love each other, and that's the last time that she ever saw her son. Back at Jeff's place, he pulls out a piece of flesh from the fridge, presumably from Tony, and cooks it. He then proceeds to eat it, and that's the end of the episode. And I said presumably from Tony because I assumed it was, but like you guys talked about earlier, I don't remember if that was on air or not. That may or may not even be true. So
Yep. Another instance of something I couldn't imagine as a parent. You know, you already heard whenever Tony was born, he was deaf, and you'd have to, you have a special needs child, but now you're filing a missing persons report. I couldn't imagine that emptiness, the hopelessness of what could have happened to my son. Very unnecessary and racist question to ask if he was involved in gang violence. He was deaf and an aspiring model. To me, it's safe to assume he's not in gang related activities, but I don't know. Evan Peters acts his ass off in this outrage scene post seeing Tony Hughes' family, but still, it does paint him as kind of regretting or remorseful for killing Tony. And I don't think Dahmer in real life was like that. It is factual. Dahmer kept Tony's body around for days. Whether it was his obsession with him, fascination, admiration, I'm not sure though. Love the interaction between Tony and his mom. Good review talk, I know, but it's heartfelt and it felt very genuine. And the last thing I got is per Grok. Dahmer didn't eat Tony Hughes' liver as shown. Shirley Hughes and other family members have shown frustrations with these dramatizations. Disclaimer, it didn't explicitly say that was Tony's liver in the show, but with the context of this episode, like, I assume that's what they were painting the picture as, but that's the last thing I got. I thought this was the best episode so far. It was most heartfelt.
Yeah, just heartbreaking stuff with Tony's mom at the police station. Like, you can really feel her concern. And then the nerve of the cop to ask about drugs or gang violence. Like, it just further proves the racial bias from the police that has been evident this whole series. And it was absolutely disgusting for Jeff to show up at the family search party thing. And even worse when he called Tony's sister. I mean, just disgusting stuff. Very disturbing episode. As like I said before, it made this victim feel more like a human and not just a name. It did have some slow stretches, I guess, or maybe it was just because we didn't have as much Jeffrey as we got in the other episodes. But it was very solid. I just, with the difference, the stark contrast of how the rest of the series has been and Tony's mom speaking out, what I read about that, I did give it a little bit lower. I gave it an 8.5 though, because it's still really good. Really good television, not really good subject matter.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. This is a tough show to review and watch.
Yeah, almost every time I do see my scene, I mean, even this one, there was like at least 5 places that I was going to joke or put a joke in there. And then I was like, I can't do that. Like, it just didn't feel right. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. I agree.
I made a couple jokes last episode when I was doing the Simba scene. And I regretted it.
You guys got any final thoughts on these 2 episodes?
No.
Yeah, this is a tough series, but it's so well acted by Evan and Richard Jenkins, Niecy Nash. So many give good performances. I'm looking forward to episode 7 and 8 next week, and we will be back. Only 2 more episodes to go of our series, not the show. Right. There's 4 more episodes of the show left.
That's my taxidermy stuff. Gosh.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Just want to remind everybody,